Thank you, Jacob. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Phillip Capital, I welcome all of you to the business update conference call of Beta Drug Limited. From management, we have Mr. Rahul Batra, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Nipun Arora, CFO, Mr. Ashutosh Shukla, Vice President, and Mr. Govinda Bhullar, Strategic Advisor for the company. I now hand over the line to Mr. Rahul Batra for his opening remarks. Post that, we will open the floor for question and answer. So, thank you very much, Rahulji, for your time, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Apurva. Good evening, everyone. First of all, we would like to apologize for the delayed call. Actually, it was supposed to be done in November, but we had plans to go to Uzbekistan to establish our marketing setup, as all the approvals regarding tablets and injectables have been received there. Since the visas couldn't process, so we decided to organize it now before it gets further delayed. I'll start with some numbers overview. BDL consolidated revenue for the first 6 months of FY22 grew by 71% to 88.1 crores from 51.4 crores compared to the same period a year ago. The growth was mainly driven by our own branded sale, which has increased up to 140%. The company has continued to expand its presence almost all the corporate hospitals in India and has also marked its presence in the remaining Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. The CMO business grew up by 66%. The total consolidated EBITDA grew by 87% to 20.5 crores from 11 crores as compared to the last year. The EBITDA margin stood at 23.27%, expanding up by 200 point basis. The margin expansion was mainly derived by the own branded sales. The net profit too increased by 127% to 11.75 crores as compared to 5.18 crores compared with the same period. As for the guidance, management expect that we'll be doing the better second half in the financial performance as compared to our first half. While the own brand sales and the exports will continue to grow healthy, the main focus on the second half will be for the API and exports. Now I will call up Mr. Ashutosh to take up the branded formulation sales for both domestic and exports. We'll take you to the segment-wise developments, and we'll start with our own branded formulations for both domestic and export. Ashutosh, to you now.
Thank you, Rahul sir. Good evening, everyone. I will be giving an overview of branded formulation business. I will start with domestic and then we'll move to the international business. In domestic, we registered a healthy growth of 119% in H1 and expect a CAGR of 36 to 38% for the period 2019 to 22. We are in a leadership position with a couple of brands, and by the end of next financial year, we expect a couple of more brands will come into the leadership position. This year, we have already introduced 6 new brands and expect to launch 4 more new brands by March 22. We also have developed NDDS formulation of azacitidine injection, and we are the third company who is getting the license from DCGI to market this molecule in India. Most important thing is that the API is also developed in-house, which is surely going to give us the cost advantage. Our strength lies in new product launch, and that is going to continue to drive future growth for us. Now, I will give you a brief overview of international market. Currently, we are supplying our brands to around 16 countries globally. We have hired a couple of DGMs from world-class company, and both these guys have a rich experience of more than 15 years in international market. In last 4 months, we have targeted 22 additional countries and signed CDA with them. Our major thrust will continue to be in Latin America, CIS countries, Southeast Asia, and African countries. We have triggered audit of PICS, Anvisa, Invima, and Cofepris. Not only that, We are also working for MA acquisition from a European company so that we can trigger audit for EU GMP as well. So overall, we expect a very healthy growth coming in from 2023 onwards. However, till that time, we can still expect a growth of around 30 to 35%. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rahul sir. Hello.
Mr.
Yeah,
Rahul, may
thank
we
you,
request
sir.
you to unmute yourself?
Thank you, Ashutosh. So now I will take up for API and the CRAM business. So the main focus of the company was always API. So once we went into the backward integration, the whole idea was whatever sourcing of raw materials which we used to do earlier, so we have to increase the significant number of percentage as a backwardly integrated. There, earlier in the last years, we have seen that the total procurement from the subsidiary company was 45 to 50%. This has gradually increased to 60% now. So only the epirubicin, the fermentation products, and the flattens, which we are not able to produce, so we are just sourcing from outside. Rest, all the products we are trying to source from Edley Lab only. So in Edley Lab, since there was a constraint regarding the capacity, so we have added 2 more reactors. One is for 500 liter and the second is for 1600 liter. Just since the number of products has been added to meet up the demand for both the subsidiary companies and for domestic and exports, we have increased this capacity. And in addition to that, we have also upgraded our microbiology lab and QC so that we can easily trigger the EU audit. We are planning to file our first DMF by June 2022, as we said in the last call. In addition to this, we are also adding 2 glass line assemblies, which the work will be over by January 2022, like in 2 months from now, with a capacity of 200 liter 2 reactors and 100 liter 2 reactors, where with this line will be totally focused only on the regulated markets. Already in this financial year, we have launched 7 new APIs, plus companies working very aggressively in launching another 4 APIs in the coming 4 months. BDL is proud to say and share with you all that company has recently got the approval to manufacture 2 DG API, which was approved for COVID treatment. So this is the first company in India who has got the approval without any DRDO support. So we did the development in-house, filed the DCGI application, got the audits done from DCGI, and now we have recently got the approval to manufacture this. But no, we understand the situation now is quite okay with India. But in case any further rise or spike in the cases, then we'll be having an added advantage in this particular API. To meet the basic demand of this API, Beta has also taken a loan license in some facility to manufacture particularly this product. All the cytotoxics will be manufactured at our own facility, and this particular 2 DGI will be manufactured in the loan license facility. So the API sales stood at FY 2021 stood at 6.6 crores. This is the outside sales, not the internal sales, which is now in this first half we have done around 4 crores. We expect a significant growth in the coming 6 months. We have done well in the last 2 months, and we expect the same growth to be coming in the remaining 4 months. Now I'll talk about the CRAM business. The CRAM business has grown significantly by 68%. We have added new customers, new companies in our portfolios. We have started manufacturing for them. Plus, in the CRAM business, we have targeted mainly the indirect exporters. So the only reason of having a growth in this is, again, the new molecules which we have launched. So those 7 products which we have recently developed and launched in Beta Drugs, we have given to our CRAM partners as well. And we intend to give them all the new molecules which we research. Our core strength always lies in the R&D. The R&D spend was 1%, which will now increase up to 4% of the sales. This is only because we have a very, very strong pipeline till 2025. Our teams are working very aggressively in both the sectors, like the IPR team and the development team. The IPR team just ensures that we are not infringing any patent so that we should be involved in any litigation with any MNC. Once we get a clearance from there, so the other team take up the product based on the requirements, based on the research of our side. So our main focus areas in this oncology new development products is always hematology. As Ashutosh just discussed that we have just made a novel drug of azacitidine NDDS, that is azacitidine oral. So now there are 3 more products which are pipelined through DCGI route only, which the product approvals are expected by March. So we have made a pipeline. We have identified the products till 2025, and our team has started working on that. Now, to conclude this, I've almost shared all the business segments. We have almost shared all the business segments. We have discussed about the branded formulations, the exports. The branded formulations is a key driver growth for us now for the next 3 to 4 years. The exports, we look forward, and we have, as Mr. Ashutosh said, that we have filed the registrations. We have filed the inspection fees for Anvisa, Cofapris. So we will be getting audits soon from these countries. In case we have given them an option to opt out, if they cannot come for the physical audits, they can do for a desktop audit as well. So we are working on that. So if we talk about exports on track, the domestic is on track, and API is 100% on track, then CRAM is also showing a significant growth. So I'll conclude now by just saying a few lines. Since we have a robust pipeline for the next 3 to 5 years, our intent is to launch all the new molecules, be the first one in the generics, or it can be the FTL, first to launch, or it can be the NDDS. This will be the major growth driver for the company. We are looking forward for 30 to 35% annual growth for next 3 to 4 years down the line, which we are very confident to achieve. Our team is very strong and very energetic. Now, I would like to invite all the queries from our dear shareholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Soham Das, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. So I had 2 quick questions. Basically, you mentioned about CRAMS as well as domestic strategy. So can you please explain to me basically how will the strategy look, whether you will be selling all the new molecules on a domestic basis by yourself, and so how basically it will look, I'm not quite sure about it. And the second point is, how does your current TKI pipeline look? Because as far as the 2020 annual report goes, you mentioned a path of about 8 TKIs to be released in the next 3-4 years. So how does that look? That's it from my side.
Yes, thanks for the question. So I would like to tell you that whatever development we do in-house, whatever products we intend to manufacture, the strategy is very clear that first month we tend to launch our own brand. Simultaneously, we offer these brands to our CRAM partners as well. Since the capacity is not a constraint at all, and we are on a leverage of 50-60% because majorly the developments are happening on the oral front. So we have to exploit both the opportunities, and we intend to launch in our own brand name plus along with our CRAM partners. The second question you asked about the TKI. So last financial year, this financial year particularly, we have already launched 7 new molecules, on which 4 were the TKIs. Then another 2-3 TKIs are going to be launched till by March 22. And we have made a pipeline, as I discussed on my roadmap, that we have made a pipeline till 2025, identified all the new molecules which are supposed to be launched. Our team has already started working on those molecules, and our major focus will be towards hematology, lung, and breast cancer.
Got it. Thank you. And one follow-up question on the CRAMS relationship. So what is the nature of the financial arrangement? Is it on a revenue sharing, or is it basically pick up on the spot? What kind of a revenue sharing? What kind of financial arrangement is it?
See, the CRAMS business is all about, we don't share the call sheets with them. We just share the transfer price along with our MOQ. So this is the minimum order quantity, and this is the transfer price. So once they agree, we proceed for the agreement of trademark, and then there we'll start manufacturing and deliver the goods to them.
Got it. Thank you. And one last question is, how is the Uzbek plant looking?
How? Sorry?
How is the Uzbek operations looking?
Uzbek operations now, since March, everything was online, but we got the approvals for all the orals we manufactured there. We got the approvals for all the injectables. Injectable we supplied, we made available at our Beta UBK warehouse there. But since the COVID pandemic was there, we couldn't travel at all. The 6 months, India didn't allow to go. And after that, we tried, but we are still in the process of getting visas. Once everything is online, we will be there, we'll set up our marketing base, and then we'll be kicking off the marketing process as well.
Thank you. I'm satisfied. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. A reminder to all participants, you may enter star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Gurjot Aluwalia, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Firstly, congratulations on a great set of numbers in H1. Just a couple of questions. I want to understand the performance of the 6 new launches. What can be the expected growth of the domestic brand sales for H2? Because I understand in H2 of last year, we have done about 22 crores in the branded formulations. And in H1, we have done 24 crores. So incrementally only about, I think, 2 crores compared to last 6 months and first 6 months of this year. So how is the new launches and what kind of growth we are looking for?
Sure. Ashutosh, I'll give on this question to you. Please explain. Ashutosh?
Yeah. So we are increasing our cover market size every year. So the 6 novel molecules which we have introduced, the covered market we have increased by around 250 crores. And the 4 more TKIs which will be launching in next 4 months' time, again we will be increasing our covered market size by around 200 CR. So as of now, the market share which we have got for the existing molecules for the recently new launched is around 2.5%, which we expect for the future new launches as well. And as far as sales are concerned, last financial year we did 33 CR, which we have already crossed in November. And now a lot of orders, institutional orders are also lined up. So we expect a very healthy growth in this financial year.
Okay. But what I see in the presentation, it says April to September 24.
Yeah. Right.
And last year, I'm calculating for H2. I think H2 was only 22.
Right.
So I'm just saying it's a 2 crore growth between last year, last 6 months and first 6 months of this year.
Right. So this year also, last year, if you see the first half, COVID impact was very much high. Even in this year, the COVID impact was there for a couple of months. Now we have regained our market share. And now the current base, which we are expecting, like for example, 33 crores, if you see the average sales of last financial year was less than 3 CR, close to around 2.75. and now we will be clocking the sales of 5 CR for next 4 months. That is the kind of growth we will be getting for the future months.
Okay, super. That answers that question. And just one more thing on this business. So you've also mentioned that you will be focusing on railways, CGHS, army. Now, I am a little concerned if you will get the same EBITDA margins versus your private corporate hospitals. And if this business will be lumpy or like tender driven. So like what kind of margins should we expect if you're going to go into that sort of army, railways, institutional?
Yeah, I will explain you the entire scenario. So if you see the overall onco industry, the government institutional reimbursement patients that contributes to around 30%, remaining 70% comes from corporate and private hospitals, right? And as far as institutions are concerned, institution we don't have much of a manpower, so we do have one institutional head who is taking care of the entire institutional business. Plus, we are taking the help of our trade team as well for institutional business. So there is hardly any investment as far as institutional business is concerned. So there, as far as EBITDA is concerned, yes, definitely the prices will be low, but at the same time the investment will also be very low.
Okay. No, what I'm trying to say is, right now, if you are getting 33% EBITDA margin, if you start doing sales to army, railways, CGHS, then EBITDA margin will become lower on incremental sales. That is my point.
Yes, you are correct to some extent. See, again, if you see the major thrust for us is the private hospitals. Now, the point which I wanted to bring in is like, if you see the overall onco industry, one is the institutional business which you are talking about. The second is the corporate business wherein there is a heavy price competition. Third is the private market. So we are focusing majorly into private market so that this EBITDA margin should go up. Even though we are getting a lower EBITDA margin with the institutional from the institutional sales, but overall EBITDA, if you see, it will be matching as it is for the years to come. Because when the institutional sales is going up, at the same time the private business is also going up very, very significantly. So overall EBITDA margin, if you see, it will remain the same, or it will be a little higher also. Because one thing I must tell you, if you see the manpower of Beta as compared to the industry, our manpower, like the per person productivity, is like one of the highest in the industry, and that is a major focus for us as well.
Good.
I just add on this, since we have a leverage in terms of production and we have an opportunity to sell the products in any of the institutions, we'll be definitely doing it. Our focus is, although as Ashutosh ji rightly said, that our focus is towards the corporate and the private market, but since if we have the leverage, if we have the benefit of getting into the institutions, so we will be addressing this market and will try to capture as much as it possible.
Got it. No, thanks for answering. Can I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So just on the CRAM business, so we've seen again great growth in this business also. So just want to understand, I think you talked about few customer additions here. I want to understand if this is a long-term business like 5-10 year contract you have. And secondly, again, this business I think is the lowest EBITDA margin business, right? About 15-16%. So what is the plan here? The sales mix will be the same percentage what this business contributes currently, it will remain the same in the future, or this will have much faster growth or lower growth?
Yeah. So I'll answer you this one. The CRAM business is always a steady business for any pharmaceutical company. Companies like Hetero, companies like Vidya, companies like Natco, companies like Parecia Biotech, they're also doing the CRAM business. And we have been doing this CRAM business since last 15 years now. Until now, we have not seen even a single customer back off from our side. So every year we renew the agreements with them and we get the same response as we used to get the earlier. The only advantage the CRAM partners have with us is that we are intending to develop new products which everyone is looking forward to launch and add on their product baskets. Coming on to the next part of the question, that about the revenue mix, till the time we have leverage, and we still have a lot of leverage, till the time we have leverage, we'll continue serving our CRAMS partners as well. So even though the EBITDA is less, once the production is there, the capacity is there, we will be carrying on with this business mix. In future, once our exports are settled in coming 2-3 years down the line. But for that also, in case some expansion is required in terms of new facility, which we discussed in the last call also, expansion is required, we'll be doing the expansions on that particular line, and we will not be leaving even single of our CRAMS customer.
Got it. So why does once we have the exports approvals in place, your different audits are cleared, then slowly CRAMS business will come down a little bit?
See, the thing is, we as a businessman, we don't want to lose even a single business of ours. Every business is very important. Every segment is very important. Although the focus is in the own branded formulation, whether it's domestic or whether it's exports. But for us, our CRAMS partners are equally important. So even if we have to do expansions and we don't have a leverage in terms of the production capacity, we'll be going for the expansion and we will be serving them as long as we can.
Got it. But it will not overall impact the margin profile of the company?
No, the margin will substantially increase because, see, the one thing you have seen from last this half year, the half year which went, so the margins have increased. So this has only because of the own branded formulation which has increased. So the own branded formulation will continue to increase at 30-35% pace. Simultaneously, we're increasing our exports as well. So the margins will increase, and we'll try to maintain the same margins with our CRAMS partners.
Got it. So thanks a lot for the detailed explanation. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Singla, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. So this is regarding the targets which you had shared in your last call. So you had set a target of 153 crore sales for FY22, and over which you were expecting the sales to grow at 30 to 35% every year, and EBITDA margin to grow by 100 to 100 basis point, 100 to 150 basis point every year. So now we have done already 90 crore in the first half, and you're saying that the second half would be even better than this. So the base probably that your target seems to be maybe around 200 crore this year. And then how much comfortable are we to grow at a 30 to 35% rate over 200 crore revenue this year? And do you still confirm that your EBITDA margin will continue to improve by 100 to 150 basis point every year? Thank you.
Right. So the thing is that we have been doing pretty well in our own branded formulations, and in future also the base will be the same for own branded, since there is a lot of opportunity lies in the Indian market. On the second side, the exports will also be a dominant factor towards our margin growth. So once we are through with all these approvals, and since the registrations are already lined up, once we are through with the approvals, so the EBITDA margin will gradually grow. The plus point is that the only thing is that the figure which we gave in our last year call was 154, and since we have done 88, so we'll be doing much better than this as compared to the first half, and gradually the same sort of growth is expected in the next 2 to 3 years down the line. We have already laid down our plans accordingly, and we have been discussing with our core team internally as well, with the finance team, that how to grow, where to grow, which segments to be focused, and the plan has been laid down very nicely and neatly for next 2-3 years down the line.
Okay, so you're confirming the EBITDA margin will also improve by 100 to 150 basis point every year?
Yes.
And in terms of the business profile, so we are primarily into oncology. So are there any plans to tap other markets, or we believe that oncology is big enough for us to keep growing for next 4-5 years or maybe 10 years? So are you looking to expand your horizon beyond oncology, or maybe in chemical side as well?
Yes. So oncology is our key focus area. Oncology is a core thing for us. We intend to look forward for only oncology as of now, but simultaneously we have the facility available where we can plan for some general injectable lyophilized ones, and that is only for only focusing on the antifungals. But the plan is still on the books, and we are still working on that one. Apart from this, we might look for one more division to be added in the coming years down the line.
Okay. And maybe one last question on your growth path. You seems to be extremely, one of the fastest growing company in the business in the oncology segment. And in terms of the margin expansion, you're also comfortable with the margin expansion theme for yourself. And in terms of the dividend part, are you planning to give any dividend in the future, or you still want to invest your money in the business itself to grow even at a faster pace?
See, these are two choices which we have to make. So we thought of giving dividend, but simultaneously we have to think about the capacity expansions as well. So on the injectable side, we need to expand on the lyophilizer part, since our lyophilized injectables were becoming stagnant and the capacity was becoming constrained. So we just installed one lyophilizer. So that's already on the route, and it will be done by this month only. So the expansion part has gone, the money part has gone there. Then the second is the expansion we are doing in the terms of API, since we are going for the EU approval for that particular segment. Already 2 reactors added, then one more line will be added, and one QC and microbiology rebuild has been done, the modification has been done. So the money part has gone there as well. Then we are actually looking forward for more and more registrations. So for more and more registrations, we need to trigger the inspections. So inspection fees need to be paid. So right now, dividend, of course, is on books, but we will still evaluate till March how much more expenditure is required in terms of growing the sales majorly for exports.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I have one more question, so probably I will come back in the queue. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Raghav from Ace Capital Services. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. My question is related to current capacity utilization and if our capacities are fungible.
Right. So API business, let's talk about the API business first. So API, since we are adding more and more molecules, that's the reason we expanded our API reactors. The 2 reactors have already been added. Then for EU, we are again adding 4 more reactors. That is only the glass lines. Then if you come on to after this, we'll be having the leverage will be at 60-70% utilization only. In APIs, the major constraint is the benefit which we get as an onco is that the batch sizes are not huge. So the batch sizes are only kilo batch sizes, supposedly 10 kgs, 20 kgs. It's not like 1 ton or 2 ton batch sizes. So this is one advantage we have in oncology. But apart from that, we have a number of reactors to take care of our own demand, to take care of our other domestic demand for the other oncology players, plus for the exports as well. In terms of our formulation is concerned, the orals part, the oral facility, we still have a leverage of around 50-60%, as this is a new plant and we were serving it from the older plant earlier. In terms of injectables, we had a constraint for lyophilized injectables. That constraint has also been addressed, and now the new lyo is coming in place. This will be installed by December. So again, that leverage will come to 60-65%. And overall, we can easily, with this investment, and see, pharma is a continuous investment process. Every time you need some new machineries, every time you need some new lab equipment, every time if something is there, you have a space, you go for addition of the line or addition of the machinery. So this will be a regular process. This will keep on adding, and till with this particular investment which we have done and planned, till January 2022, we'll be having enough leverage and we can do a sales of 300 odd crores.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate your willingness to allocate capital, expansions rather than giving dividends. I think for a smaller company, we would like appreciation in stock prices rather than getting some dividends right now. So appreciate that. My second question will be related with R&D capacity. So how much scientists we have? And since we are a research-based organization, are we going to increase the scientific pool that we have currently?
So the overall target is to develop around 5 to 7 molecules in a year. And for that, we have enough scientists in place. Apart from the scientists, we have the IPR team also, the law team also in place. So the total expenditure we are doing, that was around 1%, but now it will gradually increase to 4% of the total sale value. So the number of scientists we have for this development is around 4, and we might increase up to 6 or 7 based on the requirement. In case we are capable enough to handle this development, so we might not adding, but future we will definitely be adding up some more scientists in the development part.
So this capex that you're doing in terms of R&D spend 2% higher, is it more in terms of getting more manpower, maybe junior scientists or other staff, or is it in terms of equipment buying?
No, it is in terms of the particular product development. So product development, we need to have multiple batches for which we need to multiple source of intermediates. So for one product development, in case of supposingly we take up Azacitidine, so we have to take 3-4 batches. We have to take in formulation 3 batches in API. So this is how the total, if we see that developing an NDDS is not an easy task. It's totally a technological driven thing. So once we are into all this process, so one product gives us an immense pressure of the cost, but this pressure is nothing in terms of sales, as the whatever expenditure we do on development of one product can be met out in 3 or 4 months. So the major expenditure part in R&D, what we are doing is not towards coming up with a new scientist, this is towards the getting the material developed at our sites.
Understand. So last question, if I may, I think oncology products are the developing markets are pretty underserved in terms of oncology markets. So there is a huge potential to be tapped over there. Challenge will be there are so many small markets that you need to do registration, etc. So as a strategy, we want to take the emerging markets, or we want to take the developed markets like Europe and take the big players there head on in terms of cost advantage which we have.
So these are 3 strategies used just for. So our major strategy is developing the first to take the PICS approval. We have already filed an application in Thailand. We have already filed an application in Brazil for Anvisa. So we might expect an audit very soon. So the major target is towards the semi-regulated market right now. And after this, parallelly, our team is working towards acquiring one MA from Europe. We are in talking with 2 countries in Eastern Europe to have an MA acquisition where we can easily trigger the EU market as well. Simultaneously, if we get an opportunity to work with any good company for European or a regulated markets, we are looking for that possibility, and we are in talking terms with 1 or 2 companies on that side also. But that will also be not based on the non-exclusive basis. The exclusivity will not be given to those companies, as once they are marketing in those countries, simultaneously we will be marketing as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you. All the best.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Agastya Dave from CAO Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I must also compliment you on your opening remarks. They are very concise. They deliver so much in terms of message to the shareholders, and they describe the business very well. So kudos to you on that. Sir, I have 3 questions actually. First is a question on your strategy. So one thing which I find slightly strange is that you have your own branded portfolio, and yet you are also supplying your API to some of your basically your competitors in the market, right? So Isn't there a conflict there? And why do that? I understand there are benefits of operating leverage. You have so much capacity, so you're doing it. But long-term strategy-wise, is it something that you will continue to do? Does it make sense? Does it not make, in fact, more sense to have your, like, every API under your own brand? So that's my first question.
So the thing is, in pharma, one does manufacture one raw material and supply and manufacture it in-house for the formulations and supply to other companies. If we are not doing it, someone else will come and play and they will be supplying to those companies. So since we have the leverage, we have the price advantage, we have the profits to be inculcated in that facility. So if all those facilities, if all those opportunities are there, why not supply these APIs to those companies as well? Coming on to I'm not comparing myself to any big company. We are not comparing that. But still, right. Sun Pharma do manufacture carboplatin, which is today right now short in the market. So Sun Pharma does the formulation and API both. But Sun Pharma also gives that carboplatin to all the companies, like to us, to Nephron, to Hetero, to Zydus, to all the companies. So this is the business model. Since you have you have the capacity, you can market that product. Why not give it to each and every? This will increase the market also, and this will increase our brand name also.
Okay, fine. Sir, a second question is, you mentioned about your capacity utilizations, and plenty of investment is already going in. But these are just additions, right? When would you require a new block, or when would you require a new site? How far away are you from reaching those requiremements?
As I discussed earlier, that this particular addition is good enough to do a sales of 300 odd crores. So right. Before that, once we are at the verge of doing 260, 270 and coming up with the plant of a new line, that will be only required, I think, will be the only line which is required for further expansion will be the injectable one. We have already acquired a land there. We have already acquired a land near our facility. So we have made the expansions and the plans are ready. The only thing is the execution needs to be done. But till the time we have leverage, the execution will not take place. Once we are at 260, 270 odd crore, we'll be going out for an additional line injectable.
Got it. So just to clarify, once the current capacities are more or less like 80, 85, 90% utilized, you will require a new addition, which would be basically a different line, right?
Yeah, that will be a different line, you can say different block altogether.
Different block altogether. Okay. And the current location that you have, how much land do you have? How many such blocks can you add?
We can add up 2 more blocks there, and we have a land of around 3.5 acres. We just added 0.8 acres more, and we are in talking terms with all the villages nearby who are like just adjoined to the plant. So they are ready to give us 2.53 acres more to us. You
said you can add 2 more blocks?
Yes, we can add 2 more blocks in this particular.
You can add 2 more. Great.
Yes.
So my final question is, on the filings that you're doing in regulated market, and you're not setting up some reactors dedicated for that purpose. So if I look at your, let's say, by 2025, how will your business mix change in terms of exports versus domestic and regulated versus ROW? So what would be that split in your mind? And a sub part to this question is that going forward, once you go into the regulated markets, will we be seeing more FTFs, probably you becoming authorized generic for some molecule, or you getting para 4 opportunities? How are you looking at it, and how are we preparing the backend for that? Because those will be the really massive opportunities, right? So first of all, is it something that we can handle? And what are we doing to prepare for that?
So I'll start with the last line. Like, we are capable of handling each and every situation, and we have got all the professionals in line. This team is totally driven by the professionals from the onco industry who are working in this line from last 15-20 years now. Whether it's in the production line, whether it's in the finance line, whether it's in the marketing line, sales line, exports line. So all we put together, all of us are working in the oncology since last 15-20 years now.
Very nice.
So now coming on to the strategic front on the export side and the revenue mix. So once our exports will be fully in a fully saleable cycle, so the revenue we see as compared to the current scenario is that 30-35% of the export revenue will be there. Same 30-35% of our own branded formulation will be there. Then the revenue mix might, although the growth will be there in the CRAM with the CRAM partners as well, but since the volume of the exports will be high, so the percentage business of CRAM will come down from 55-60 to 30-35.
Right. Great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. And amazing performance. You guys are doing very, very well. Much above my expectations. Thank you very much, sir. Keep it up, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to all participants, you may enter star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Rajesh Singla, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks again. Maybe if you can elaborate a bit about your M&A strategy. So, and in light with the capex plan which you earlier mentioned. So you're saying that till the time you reaches 260 crore kind of revenue, you might have to spend a bit more, or you have to basically do a large capex, so which I believe could be in FY24 coming in front of you. So maybe basically a bit more on M&A strategy and the capex timelines and the amount required to grow the business continuously at 30-35% rate.
Sure. So Nipun, can you add on this?
So the capex which we have spent, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. So earlier there was a comment that you might require a large capex once you reach 260 crore kind of sales, which I believe you would be doing by maybe next year or maybe by FY24. So probably you would have to spend the money maybe from next year onwards. So if you can elaborate a bit more on your capex amount which you would need for a large capacity or for basically a major expansion in the next year or maybe year after.
See, the expansion which we are already doing, we have already spent 50-60% of the expansion without getting any further loan. I mean, the loan which we have got was very minimal. Say if we have in all the 3 companies that we have invested somewhere around say 7-8 CR, we have got a loan only for 2 CR, out of which we have utilized only 1 CR till now. So we have done it from the internal sources only. So by this capacity only, which we have already incurred, we could easily touch 220 CR. So you are talking about 240 CR. So we are nearly we can easily touch that 220 to 40 CR by this capacity only.
So the 240, if I look at say 190 crore this year and then 30% growth next year, so you would be doing around 240 crore probably next year. So you would require a major capex maybe next year to keep growing at that rate, or that is already under plan and.
See the capex in terms of equipment we have already incurred and we are incurring. The capex regarding the product registrations, it will be incurred in the next phase.
Okay.
I'll give you insight on this. Nipun, I'll take on this one. So the thing is, as I told you already, that with this expansion, we can do easily sales of 300 odd crores, right? So after we get into like 260-270 crores of sales, we will looking for an expansion for the injectable line. For particular injectable line, we have the land available to construct that block and the injectable line. The total amount required is not more than 35 crores. So we have enough reserves with us, and we might not go for more loan from the banks, so that the company should be in the same phase as it is today.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the total investment might be around 30-35 crores. It will not be more than that.
That's manageable, I believe. And maybe a bit on your M&A strategy.
M&A strategy, till now we have not seen any of the company where we can do some M&A. But of course, if we get an opportunity in any of the division, which is linked to oncology only, we will be definitely exploring that opportunity and will be doing that as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We aren't talking. We have our concerns. We have our people everywhere in all the segments. We are in talking terms with Deloitte. We have relations with many of the persons who are mainly pharma specific. So in case any acquisitions, they are looking forward to diverse, so they will be offering to us. And in case they are linked to oncology, we will be exploring that possibility as well.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Best of luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last question is from the line of Dhiral Shah from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir, and thanks for the opportunity. So when you say that you're looking to increase the R&D expenditure as a percentage of sales to 4% from current 1%, so my question is that this will impact the overall EBITDA margin going ahead?
So there will not be any impact on the EBITDA margins because the expansion mode will be for 2-3 months, but after that the product will be launched and the same revenue will be generated for next 9 months. And once these products are launched, these products will add up further more EBITDA as compared to the current portfolio. So the EBITDA will not be affected at all with the development part.
Okay, got your point, sir. And sir, lastly, as you said that you have, you have planned to launch maybe 20-25 molecules in coming years. So how do you identify the molecule? So is it totally depend upon how big is the market size of that molecule, or is it a complex process, or is it dependent on the competitive intensity?
Yes. So the thing is, we have a good marketing base in oncology. The team who's working with us, they have a rich, vast experience in oncology expertise. So the main areas of our identification of a new product is always hematology, lung cancer, breast cancer. Plus, we have started on the side on a prostate as well. So these are the main focus areas for the key developments, for the key products which we intend to launch in the coming years. Secondly, the market size of those products, if they are the niche molecules, there are two processes now. One is that we are the FTL, first to launch, for the generic version of a research molecule. The market size is already there, but after the generic molecule is launched, so the market size reduced substantially by 1/10. But if we are doing a novel formulation like we've done for azacitidine oral, so this product is not available in India with any of the research companies. Hello?
Okay.
Yeah. So these products are not available in terms of it's not available with any of the MNCs. So once we do this, these are the molecules which are novel molecules, and certainly the market size of these molecules need to be created. But since the indication is there, the doctors always look forward for something unique and something new from the company. So once these are developed, so we will have an opportunity to go and crack even those doctors which we are not covering at the current situation. So this gives an edge in the market as well.
Okay. What would be the overall, market size of the new product that you are going to launch in coming years? Any ballpark figure?
See, the one Ashutosh ji just discussed, that the 4 molecules which we are going to launch by 2022 March, the market size will be close to around 200 crores. So we'll be catering these, and now after that, single molecules will have a single market size. So that is still under consideration, and will be whatever market sizes, we'll try to take the maximum market share from there onwards.
Okay, got it, sir. Thank you so much, sir. That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. As there are no further questions, I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Apurva Shah for closing comments. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. So on behalf of Phillip Capital, we thank all the participants here for your valuable time, and especially the entire team of Beta Drug Limited. Rahulji, before we close, would you like to make any closing remarks so that would be helpful for all the logged in participants?
Right, Apurva. So thank you so much for sparing time. We knew that this call was supposed to be done, as I told earlier, that It was supposed to be done in the month of November, but anyhow, we have done it now, and we will scale it up. We'll scale it up to the level where you all are looking towards, and we'll continue give the performance of 30-35% annually. And our own branded formulation will definitely make an impact in the market. So once everyone is aware of like the oncology, so you can always have a look around from the market and from the data available online, that where the company stands, where the branded formulations they are going, and what sort of turnover, what sort of development they are taking forward. On behalf of my team, I thank you all and assure you best of our performance in the coming years as well.
Thank you. On behalf of Phillip Capital India